Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So today we continue to discuss about the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Paths, and the last two, the right meditations and right mindfulness. And we discussed before um, the four foundations of mindfulness. We discussed about the body that relate to uh, the practice of breath meditation, uh, and that is one of the basic practice that most traditions follow. And we discussed about the posture, whether we standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. We may be mindful of those posture, and we may contemplate or be mindful of the 32 parts of the body, the activities of our physical bodies, the eating, uh, drinking, driving, speaking, and so forth. And relate to the bodies is uh, as the vortices of the case, uh, like we were born, we have some kind of illnesses, creation, and we may pass away sooner or later. So those are the contemplations of the mindfulness of the body. And the next one we discuss about the feelings. We contemplate or be mindful of our feeling, including pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. Uh, and we further discuss about the mindfulness of our mental states, the state of the mind. We have desire, anger, uh, jealousy, and so forth. And so those are the state of the mind. And in the practice, when we sit there, if any uh, of those thoughts pop up in our mind, we just recognize and let them go, as we discussed before. And the last one of the four foundations of mindfulness relate to mental objects, phenomena. So last time we discussed about the seven enlightenment factors. Uh, so last time we just start to discuss about uh, those seven enlightenment factors. So that belong to mental object of phenomena. Anything relate to how we transform the mind according to the Buddhist teachings. So let me go back here. When we talk about the seven factors of enlightenment, we need to recognize how we connect with each other in the subatomic levels, and how it is to create an influence on our thoughts. So if we develop uh, the compassion and loving kindness, our consciousness around ourselves and others, we can create a life free of sufferings for ourselves and others. We can improve our lives as well as other people. through the true enlightenment, awakening, the Buddhist way. If we develop loving kindness and compassion and awareness, when we talk with other people, when we interact with other people, we interact with them in the uh, positive intention. We would have positive attitude uh, toward them instead of following the anger, the desire, craving, and so forth. If we don't know how to control our mind, if we let our afflictions uh, control us, like anger and craving, so when we deal with other people, uh, we put the conditions um, before our conversation, our relationship. So let's say when we talk with someone else, we may think, oh, do I get anything out from this conversation? Can I take advantage of this person? Uh, mm, and so forth. So with that type of intention, eventually other parties will recognize and then may return with a similar intention, like doing the business, uh, and if it's beneficial for them, they would maintain that relationship. Otherwise, they may withdraw. So do we. So again, with those type of uh, mentalities, it's not easy for us to maintain the healthy relationship between us and others. That's why when we have intention of compassion, of understanding, and so forth, so much easier for us to prolong that type of relationship when we show them our intention to help them, not to hurt them. So definitely they would like to work around with us or engage in any kind of business relationship with us. So that's why in Buddhism, this type of seven factor enlightenment is so important that be helpful for us to develop the awakening mind. Uh, so let's move on so we know. The first one is mindfulness. Again, we know that we learned before so many times. So mindfulness is the way that we be mindful of things that we are doing, whether we are standing, walking, driving, cooking, cleaning, washing dishes, and so forth. We are mindful with that present moment of the body and mind, so that we would not be disturbed by others, phenomena, other things. And so basically, um, when we remain in the present moment, the past and the futures occurrence will not affect us much. So that's why we could reduce the risk of stresses, anxiety, depressions, and so forth. Because those mental afflictions uh, usually or mostly come from the way that we swing our mind back to the past. Uh, that's why we may feel depressed when we remember things we have failed in the past, or when we swing our mind to the future, it may stress us out because of our expectation of certain. We expect to have a high grade, we expect to have the bonus, ration salary and so forth. If we don't have those kind of things, and definitely will be frustrated. And so again, that's why mindfulness practice help us to bring our mind to the present moment, to live with the present moment, and to let go of those thoughts that swing back to the past and swing to the future, so that we can reduce some levels of mental prisons like stress, anxiety, depression, and so forth. So again, this is so important that we demand uh, in the present moment without any kind of judgment or conceptualization, so that we would not lose our mind in daydreams, uh, anxiety, worry. So it's just help us to know what's going on at the very moment, uh, and we don't need to manipulate or change that kind of movement blindly. We don't need to create any uh, drama at that moment. We just face it, just respond in the best way, just accept that present moment, and so that we can recognize and be aware of the variety of life, of things as the way they are, so that it could help us to transcend the delusions, because we don't uh, personalize, manipulate uh, the uh, things that we are doing, are facing at the present moment. The present moment is just symbol the moment, whether it's good or bad, whether uh, it's pleasant and unpleasant, especially when we deal with breath meditation, we can recognize them. So we discussed many times in the past, especially the practice of breath meditation is so useful, is so helpful for us to remain in that neutral, in that present moment. So again, when we inhale and exhale, we just be absorber. Uh, we just let the breath come in and out naturally. We don't uh, try to push the air out, pull the air in. We try to uh, stand there and be observer, whether it's long breath or short breath, whether it's a shallow, deeper breath. We can accept and recognize without any kind of judgment. So that is the way we can train our mind through the mindfulness of the breath, and eventually we would accept who we are. We would live with the presence of the body and the mind, so we would not be disturbed by any phenomena. Uh, that is the way we can remain peaceful and calm. So this is so important. So we just keep the object in our view. We uh, can face to face with object and the breath. We recognize the breath, and we can see and contemplate the Four Noble Truths, three Dhamma. So that is so important that this kind of mindfulness is the cause or the foundation of all the mindfulness. We have that kind of clear comprehension and pure, or you can say, neck uh, experience. Uh, that means we recognize the breath as the breath, not to manipulate, not to think anything beyond that. And so that's what uh, contemplation of the breath is about, or be mindful of the breath is about. So that's the first one. And the second one is what we call investigation of the Dharma. Dhamma here includes the Buddha teachings as well as any internal and external phenomena. So we have that wisdom, insight that can differentiate the corporal body and the mind, and this is both as impermanence and substrate and non-self. So we need to have that type of investigation about the reality of body and mind. So here, investigation is the way that we can invest into the nature of reality and Buddha teachings. So it's help us to recognize things as the way they are, and in the Kalama Sutra, or the Charter of the Free Inquiry. So the Buddha said that we need to be careful before we accept anything else, whether it's just come from our traditions, custom, anything, even the word of the Buddhas. We would not need to follow him blindly. We need to investigate whether his teaching can be helpful for us, can be beneficial for us. And if it's beneficial and helpful, we would follow his teaching to actualize or realize the truth, obtain the spiritual benefit. This is in the centered point views that before we accept any theories or principle, like in chemistry, someone postulate the chemical formulas until we go to the lab to have the experience with those reactions of chemicals. We would accept those formulas, reactions are true accordingly. So again, that is the way the Buddha encouraged us to investigate things as the way they are, not to believe blindly. We need to investigate that whether it's true or not, whether it's beneficial or not. If they are, we can follow, otherwise we don't need to. So again, that is the standard of science. So this is so feasible with modern age science. So actually we can say that the Buddha laid out this kind of free inquiry, investigations as a foundation for modern science. And here is the in that sutra, the Buddha said that don't believe anything, no matter what we read or who say, unless they agree with our observation and our experience. So the Buddha did not want us to follow his teaching in blindly way. So he just wanted us to think, meditate, and then contemplate about his teaching, investigate about his teaching. So it is true, it's beneficial, and so forth. We can move forward to practice. Otherwise, we don't need that. So that's why he said, get calm to recognize my truth. Get calm to experience my truth. So again, like breath meditation, if we don't practice, we would not recognize the benefit of breath meditation, because without practicing, no matter what we say, what we watch, what we heard from others, is useless. So that's why we need to sit down and practice breath meditation by ourselves to see whether we can live with the present moment, to see whether we can calm our mind, we can absorb our breath um, in the non-judgmental attitude or not. We can live the present moment or not. We can calm our mind. We can bring our own peacefulness or not. So that's so important. Until we have the kind of practices, until we have that kind of experience, so we would recognize this. Otherwise, it's no use for us to learn the theories. And that's why here, investigation is so important, that we can see how our mental states arise, um, and understand the true nature of all things. So this is the way we seek for the thing that the way they are, or the way how they should be, so that we recognize them. So like when we do the breath meditation, we absorb the air come in and out, uh, free of any kind of judgment. We can accept the way they are, whether it's long or short, deep or shallow, and so forth. We know the phenomena of those breaths, and that's the way we can recognize ourselves. So again, in this kind of investigation of Dharma, again, we know the true nature of Dharma. Dharma is with Buddha teachings, the internal, external phenomena of our body and mind. We could utilize that kind of investigation to dispel the darkness or the ignorance, so that we can obtain to the ultimate realities. We can live with the spontaneous insight. We have that kind of doubt to recognize things with that kind of question or doubt. So we can contemplate about the truth that the Buddha mentioned, taught us. So this relates to investigation of the Dharma in general. Without this kind of investigation, it's not easy for us to recognize things. So we would follow things or follow the Buddha teachings or any principle blindly. And if we don't investigate, if we don't have any experience about those teachings, we would not recognize whether those, let's say, breath meditation could bring the benefit for us or not. So that's why it's so important that we have this kind of investigation of the Dharma, Buddha teachings, and whichever thing happened to us internally and externally. So that's the second um, factors. And the next factor is the effort, the energy. This is the balance for our mental effort that need to be generated while we are mindful of things. So in Buddhism, there are four types of effort we need to recognize. The first one is effort to avoid. The second is effort to overcome. The third, effort to develop. And the last one, the effort to maintain. So the effort to avoid, that's meant to prevent harmful actions and emotions that have not yet arisen. Those harmful potential actions may disturb our mind and other people surround us. So we have to put some effort to stop them. For example, If we have the thought of shooting the birds or go to hunt the wild animals, so we know that when we hold the guns to shoot down any kind of animals, it will be hurtful for those animals. It will be harmful for them. So that's why here the first one is effort to avoid. That's meant to prevent from those action or thought pop up in our mind or actualize action of hunting or shooting other animals or beings. And so we make that type of effort. So when we have, let's say, temptation that we want to carry the run to the forest to hunt out animals, we need to remind ourselves, no, we need to stay away from that thought, not talking about um, go to get the gun to shoot them. So that's the first one, the effort to avoid any kind of harmful thought and harmful action toward ourselves and others. Of course, the big obstruction that hinders our effort and concentration are the five hindrances: the sensual desire, the ill will, the sloth, and torpors, the restlessness, and remorse, and the doubt. So why is that? Well, these five the obstruction uh, for our effort to avoid those harmful thoughts and action occur. For example, let's say if we uh, see a deer and we may let you hunt out or shoot out that deer so that we can consume um, the meat. So with that kind of desire, we would have that kind of harmful thought that we want to shoot down that um, deer or ill will, for example, if we don't like someone else. So we have the thought that we try to uh, kill, we try to harm that person in the way that we want to. So again, those are the five hindrances that may stop us, obstruct us to stop those harmful thoughts, actions. Um, so again, uh, the effort to overcome that is the next one. So we overcome the harmful states that have already arisen. So the Buddha said that we need to abandon them, to let go of those harmful states of mind, to dispel them, to destroy them, uh, to cause them to disappear. So it's not easy, but we need to recognize them. So let's say if we used to have anger toward someone that we don't like, and we used to say uh, unpleasant words, as when we scold, yell, criticize them, and so forth. So we put the effort to overcome that verbal abuse, that action, that thought. So the next one here, the Buddha reminds us there's some techniques for us to overcome those harmful state of mind. So at first we recognize as we need to chase away those harmful thoughts with hateful thoughts. It's like we replace the anger with compassion. So if someone says something wrong about us, it irritates us, and of course we may have the anger, uh, hatred toward a person. But as long as we recognize, if we keep that thought in our mind, it's be hurtful or harmful for ourselves and others. So instead of having the hatred thought, we replace it with compassionate thought that oh, everyone want to live, no one want to die, everyone like to enjoy life, no one want to have a sufferance. So we can replace that type of negative or harmful thoughts with the positive one. That's the first one, the first step, the methods. And second one is regret, that we're not talking about any guilt. Here, we talk about our effort that we hope mm, to stop from committing some crimes, mistake like before. So we have that type of regretful thought. For example, let's say if we uh, score, yell, or criticize, or having the high speech toward other people before, and so now we remind ourselves that oh, we regret having those kind of high speech, abuse speech, and so forth. So we would not repeat again. So that's the second one. The third one, devote our attention. So when a harmful thought arises, do not indulge in that. For example, if we have the thought that we are so jealous toward someone, some friends who are successful, uh, so instead of uh, dive into that kind of jealous thought. So we change our attention. Let's say we may go to send an email to our friends. We may go out to the gardens. We may plant the trees and so forth to devote that attention of the harmful thought that's have been arising. So that's the third one. The four, confrontation. Confrontation, that means we recognize they are. We recognize they are the harmful thought. We face to face and confront those thoughts. We recognize so that we would not follow them. We would not let them control us. So there is a story that relates to Bodhidharma. So one of his first disciples asked him that please teach me the way how to calm my mind down. So I should, that's the common question that we use to ask our teachers. So Bodhidharma, he told him, bring your mind out, bring your thought out. I would calm them for you. So these students uh, paused for a while and told Bodhidharma, when I look at my mind, I could not find them. So Bodhidharma said, wow, this is a way to calm your mind already. So if we don't understand or if we have not practiced meditation, we would not understand what's going on of this kind of conversation. So let's explain step by step. So when the student asked Bodhidharma to help him to calm his mind, so the master Dhamma Bodhidharma told the student that bring your thought out. So uh, when this student looked within his mind, he could not see. That's like when we see them through. When we face to our thought, they would disappear. It's like we use the finger to touch the bubble, water bubble. It will blow up right away. So when we recognize them, when we see them, they will not appear. But if we don't recognize them, they would lead us, they would control us. So let's say when we have anger in our mind, right? So if we can let that anger to control or to push our action, our speech accordingly. So definitely we would say something that we may regret later on, or we can do something like we hit other people, we may yell at other people with that type of angry intention. And again, it's not easy for us to control ourselves at that moment, and we rate that. So, but when we have that thought, the angry thought that's popping in our mind, if we sit still and see them through, eventually that thought will disappear. So that's what Buddha told his student that I calm your mind down. So when the student say I cannot find it because it's just come and go. Those thoughts are post thought. They can come and go. So this is the way we confront face to face with those harmful state of mind. And of course, the last one, suppression. Suppression doesn't mean that we suppress the bad experience. What we get let go of those thoughts. So those are the five methods that we can overcome those harmful state of mind. And the third effort is to develop helpful qualities that has not yet arisen. For example, if we not get use of developing compassion toward homeless in our town, our city, we need to develop that. So when we see them, we feel sympathy for them. We feel sorry for them. We want to share with them some food, clothes, personal items. That is where we can develop that type of positive qualities that we have not developed before. So we can make the effort to develop those type of love and kindness attitude or compassionate thoughts, or the generosity, patience, empathy, and so forth. So it takes time to train our mind to have those positive thoughts. So especially if we recognize that we need to live with a responsible life and that we don't want to disturb our mentality, we don't want to bother other people. So we live with our honesty. We be truthful with ourselves, and we recognize whichever things helpful or beneficial for ourselves and others. We would put all effort in cultivating and developing those compassionate thought or positive thought. So again, it's the times for us to train our mind. It's this time for us to develop that type of positive thought, that type of compassionate thought. Because when we deal with things, it's easy for us to get lost in the the conditions that other people try to manipulate us, other people try to lead us in the wrong way. And so that's why when we practice this kind of right effort, we need to develop those positive qualities, those mm, compassionate thought and so forth. So that's the third one. And the fourth effort is to maintain the helpful states of mind that have already arisen. So we remain mindful of those helpful states so that it become habit for us. And so we would not need to put any effort to uh, develop them anymore. For example, so if we have developed the compassion toward those homeless in our town and city, and so whenever we see them, ultimately we try to find some things in the cars, in our backpack to share with them, whether an apples, whether it's water bottles, or whether it's a dollar and so forth, because we build up like a habitual patterns to help those uh, poor people, those homeless people. So it's come to us naturally. We don't need to put any effort to do those things. So that's why, um, as long as we develop that habitual patterns of helping others, when we are in this situation that we need to help them, we would step out, especially when nature disaster occur in our uh, city, our state. For example, when we have a snowstorm in Houston, Texas, there's many people, they step out to help each other. Even they lost electricity, even their water pipes would burst out. They didn't have any water, but they uh, share uh, their food, they share their clothes, even invite their friends or stranger to come to their house whenever they have electricity. So these are the effort that we have built up in many years. That's become habitual patterns for us to do the goodness whenever we deal with difficult situation, a challenge, whenever we see people who are uh, needy one that needs our help. So again, uh, let me summarize the four types of effort. Therefore, to avoid, this means we need to avoid the harmful state of mind, and therefore to overcome, we put some effort to overcome those harmful state of mind so that they would not control us. We put the effort to develop the still helpful state of mind, and we put the effort to maintain those positive, uh, helpful or beneficial thought, so that we can uh, bring benefits for ourselves and others. So again, with that type of effort, we need to have the patience to develop those type of effort. We need to have the courage to develop that type of effort, whether it's the first, the third, the fourth, and so forth. So we need to be persistent. We need to have the wise attention so that we can move on with our life and practice. So we can deflect on the sufferings of others when we put the effort to help others. Um, so again, with that type of effort, we would bring for the energy to help ourselves and others in our life, whether it's in relationship, in business, any situations. So since time is up, let me stop here today. And next time we discuss further about this type of 7 factors of enlightenment. Nam Mô Sakyamuni Buddha.